Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. What I want to do is, I guess if a picture tells a story of 1,000 words, then this is what we're going to do for the next 45 minutes. We're going to lift up the curtain, and we're going to look at what the big disruptive changes are. What are the big challenges that are facing you in transportation? I need to set your expectations first, though. I may have the title as a futurist, but I'm not the type of futurist that can predict the price of oil by 2020. If I could do that, I wouldn't be here today. But what I want to do is I want to provide you with a tool, a model, a framework in which you can create the future. A tool that you can use to, as Mr. Burzen said, to dream about the future. And I want to share with you 5 key disruptive forces that are changing the world. Now, it's really important that we keep our eyes on these disruptive forces because they have a sneaky habit of creeping up on you. I would imagine that you are just like these 2 fishermen. You are so good at your jobs, you can do your jobs half asleep. And every now and again, we're alerted to something. Perhaps you read in the newspaper, you hear what a competitor is doing, and you start to recognize that things are going to get interesting. And now you're going to have to wake up the team, you're going to have to inspire them, you're going to have to motivate them to change. You might even have to wake up your team members or start your organization's engine. And in today's economic climate, let's not talk about bailouts. Now, disruption can have a negative connotation, but it doesn't have to be. As long as you identify the disruption, it can be quite positive, and you're understanding what changes you need to make. So let me give you an example of a personal disruption, one that is rushing through my life. This is my little boy. He's Leo, and Leo is an angel. Look at these beautiful red cheeks that he has, these beautiful blue eyes that he gets from his mother. I don't know if you can see, but there's even a little bit of snot coming out of his nose. Leo is an angel when he's asleep. When he's awake, he's his granny's terror. Now, there were 3 things that happened which alerted me to the fact that Leo was going to be a disruptive force in our life. The first one happened when he was still in his mother's tummy. And we went to the National Health Services, the NHS in the UK, and they told us that because Hayley, my wife, and I were both over the age of 40, that we were classified as geriatric parents. Now, I felt a little bit offended. I didn't feel old. I didn't feel like a geriatric. And we went home that night and we had this discussion. My wife and I said, yeah, we're set in our ways. We've been around for a while. Leo will fit into our world. We will not fit into his. Now, those of you who are parents will know how naive that statement was. Because he has come into our life and he has totally, radically turned it upside down. He's completely disrupted it. And just the other day, we put Leo to bed and we slumped down on the sofa, totally exhausted. I looked at my wife and I said, "How do you feel?" And she looked back at me and she said, "Like a geriatric." But here's the thing that Leo has taught me about a disruptive force. There is a before and there is an after. And when this disruptive force comes hurtling through your lives, there's no going back to normal. There's no going back to the way that things were. And I'm concerned because as I do work around the world and I talk to great leaders like yourself, one of the questions I'm often asked as a futurist is, when are things going to go back to normal? When are things going to go back to the good old days, the way in which we know how to do business? And I always say, if you're waiting and hoping for things to go back to normal, you're going to be in for a bit of a shock. Because my research shows that we are living in revolutionary times. You can see these moments in history, every 150, every 200 years. Forces of progress, disruptive forces, they come together, they collide, and the world is never the same again. And I will put it to you that we are living during one of those moments in time. Historians are going to name this period we are living through. And I think at the World Economic Forum in Davos, I think they tried to give it a name. They called it the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Now, I have to say to the good people at the World Economic Forum, they could have been a little bit more creative with coming up with their name. But whether you want to call it a new age of discovery or a new renaissance, here's the thing. There are no roadmaps. We have never been here before. We can't tell you what the future will be like. You have to be adventurers, explorers in this new world. You have to dream big. You have to take this new amazing technology that Mr. Bernsen was talking about and create this new future. And I think it's our privilege and our responsibility to go out there and create a remarkable future. So there are no roadmaps. I can't tell you what the future will look like. But I can give you a tool that will help you to navigate through the future. But first of all, let me just check how many of you in the audience actually need a tool to navigate. So I want you just to participate in a group activity here. What I want you to do is this. I would like you to, when I ask you to, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to point towards north. So best guesses are fine. So 1, 2, 3, close your eyes and please point north. Come on, point north. Okay, now keep pointing and please look around. Open up your eyes and have a look around. Okay. Some of you have no clue. Some of you are pointing straight up. I love that, hedging your bets. But the first thing I have to say is, well, I'm very pleased I'm not going to the North Pole with you. Some of you are right, it's in that direction over there. So what I want to give you is this tool to help you navigate through these times of change. And we've called this tool the Tides of Change. But before I share with you what this tool is all about, I just want to impress on you that this is not a tool for predicting the future. This is a tool for creating the future. Because there are a lot of bright people who have tried to predict the future and they've got it horribly wrong. So Lord Kelvin said that there will never be heavier than flying machines. Clearly he got that wrong. This is a beast of a machine. Gottlieb Daimler, the founding father of the automobile, said that there will never be a mass market for motor cars. Why do you think he said that? I think it's because he couldn't imagine the world as it could be. He was rather looking at the world as it was. He couldn't imagine a world with millions of kilometers of roads. He couldn't imagine the production line. He couldn't imagine that there would be a car for every person. And that's the challenge that we face in this new world. Because we have to not look at the world as it is, but imagine it as it could be. We have to unlearn. In a world of digitization, automation, artificial intelligence, robotics, trying to do things that you've done in the past that was successful are not going to guarantee you success. We have to unlearn, or as Alvin Toffler said, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write. It'll be those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. One of the best ways that you can unlearn is to be curious. to ask questions about the future, to talk to experts, talk to each other, have conversations about the future, not just about the here and now. And I think this is a great question for you to reflect on and to think about the questions that you could come up with. So think about, what are the questions you should be asking about the future, given these tides of change? Or what are the conversations you need to be having, but you're not? And as I said, we've created this tides of change model to help you, provide you with a framework in having these discussions. And TIDES stands for technology, institutional change, demography, the environment and ethics, and shifting social values. I want to share with you some of the big challenges that we are now seeing. So let's jump into the D, the demographics as a disruptive force. Now, demographics is seen as a study of groups of people, and it's largely seen as a slow-moving force. But there are a number of key indicators which mean that demography is a tsunami. It's a tidal wave of change hitting our global shores. And the really big disruptive force is this: an aging world population. The statistics behind this photograph are amazing. The number of people to reach the age of 100 is growing at 400% every year. And the number of people to reach the age of 80 in the history of humanity, over half of that number are still alive today. And the prediction is that the first person to reach the age of 150 has already been born. Now, I'm guessing what you're going to have for dinner tonight. It's not going to be one of us. Let's have a look at the impact of an aging world. I want to show you 100 years of data. And let's go back kind of 60 years, and let's have a look at what's been happening over the last 58 or 60 years. Back in the 60s, the world was young. People were in their teens and their 20s. But as the world moves on, we get older and older. Europe starts moving into its 40s, and the world starts getting older and older. Now let's project this data forward, and let's have a look at what the world will be like by 2060. And we can see big chunks of the world getting older. Europe moving into the 50s, Russia, Latvia into the well-established into the 40s. China, an average age of 50 by the year 2060. And here's the thing, by 2050, there will be more old people than young people living in this world. More people over the age of 60 than under the age of 20. For the first time in human history, there will be more old people than young people. And you have to ask yourself, you have to have the conversations around how will you create a transport system for a world in which we're seeing people live to 100 years and beyond. We also need to think about the youngsters, the young kids. And is there anybody here in the room who was born in the 1990s? Just show of hand. Okay, there are a few of you. You're going to enjoy this. Anyone here who has children who were born in the 1990s? Okay, you can go and tell them this. This generation are going to be the first generation to live to 3 different centuries. Because the current predictions are, if you were born in the 1990s, all things working out fine, you will live to the ripe old age of 125. And you're going to be the first generation in history to live through 3 different centuries: the 20th, the 21st, and the 22nd century. Now, if you're living for 125 years, it has to change your views about things. Because if you're living until you're 125 and you get married in your early 20s, it means you're going to be married for 100 years. What does it mean for our careers? You certainly can't have one career for one lifetime. What does it mean for retirement? You're not going to be retiring when you hit the age of 60. And what does it mean for our consumption, the things that we buy? If you're living until you're 125, you better be thinking about a sustainable world and sustainable travel and sustainable products. So that was the D in the tides. Let's have a look at some of the changes that are happening in the S, the social values. Now, social values are our norms, our attitudes, our views of the world, and how they are shifting. And we've seen in politics and just how the world attitudes are moving and shifting at the moment. And a great way to understand this is to look at the model of generations. People born during different eras have shaped and formed their value systems. Now, I have used this generation theory for the last 15 years to understand how things are changing. And I thought, rather than share with you the stats and the bar graphs and the charts and the research, if you want to see that information, you can visit my website. All of it is there, and you can download that. But let's have some fun. So I'm going to call on the services of Ali G to demonstrate to you a generation gap in action. Ali G is better known as Borat or Bruno, but I need to keep the content family friendly. And in this interview, he's interviewing Sir Rhodes Boyson, the ex-educational minister of the UK, and they're talking about caning. Now, when I went to school, I went to an all-boys school. And caning typically involved me being naughty, being sent to the headmaster's office, being made to bend over a chair, and getting a few smacks on the backside. It was pretty painful, to be honest, and for correctional purposes only, I was told. I don't think my headmaster enjoyed what he was doing. You never know. Anyway, today you can't cane children, it's illegal, but that doesn't stop young people going out and getting caned. It just means something very different, typically involving vodka shots or Jägermeister bombs, perhaps a few illegal substances, a bit of marijuana, a bit of pot, getting caned. So let's have a look at two people from two very different generations having a conversation.
Listen here, I've got none other than my main man, Sir Rhodes Boyson, in the house, because we is talking about the education thing. Let's talk about the discipline. Do you think, Sir Rhodes, there is enough discipline in school?
I think there's slightly less than there should be.
Do you believe kids should be caned?
I do. I have.
You do?
I do.
Wicked, man.
I am.
You believe kids should be caned even in school?
Even in school.
Do you not think, Sir Rhodes, if you get caned in school, you can't concentrate as well? Because a lot of people out there say that if you're getting caned.
Well, I was caned in a time, and I've concentrated all my life.
You were caned. Respect, man.
From that, it's the...
Respect.
From there, yeah, so I mean, it was it. I mean, it shouldn't be done evil, and it shouldn't be done badly. But
you've got to have good stuff.
You have to have rules in life.
You have to have good cane.
You have to have a good cane.
Now, it's very funny when we see it up there. It's not that funny if that kind of generational disconnect is happening between yourself and your colleagues or your customers, because it can be disruptive then. Now, there have always been different ages or different age groups in the workplace. That's not what's new. What's new is the fact that because of the rapid pace and change over the last 50 years, the generational gaps have never been bigger than what they are today. And there is a new generation with new attitudes, new values, and new ways of doing things. Now, this is one of my favorite videos in this presentation, because these two individuals are probably having a conversation. They are probably even dating one another. And it's not that they're lazy, it's not that they don't know how to communicate. This is how this generation is wired. And this generation is using digital technology and mobile technology to change everything, how they communicate, how they collaborate, how they involve, engage, and interact with people. I'll give you a story here. Dave Kirpin is a social media expert, and he was invited to do a talk in Las Vegas at the Rīgā Hotel. And the Rīgā Hotel is one of the best hotels in Las Vegas. But he had been standing in the check-in line for over an hour, and he wrote out this tweet. No Vegas hotel could be worth this long wait. Over an hour to check in at the area, #fail. And he hit the send button, and his tweet went off into the Twitter sphere. And he sat there hoping, waiting expectantly that the senior leadership team at the back office would pick up his tweet, would come bursting through the doors and sort out the problem they had at their front desk. As you can imagine, nothing happened. About 5 minutes later, he receives this tweet from the Rio Vegas, a hotel just down the drag, and they say, "Sorry about the bad experience, Dave. Hope the rest of your stay in Vegas goes well." Now, what I like about this tweet is that it's very personal. There's no hard selling here. It's the kind of tweet you'd hope to get from a friend. So the next time Dave visits Las Vegas, he stays at the Rio Vegas. He has a nice time. He goes home. He likes the Facebook page. A few weeks later, a friend calls him and says, "Dave, it's my 50th birthday. I'd like to take my friends to Las Vegas. Would you recommend the Rio Vegas?" He goes, "Yes." So 200 people are shipped off to the weekend at the Rio Vegas. They have a great time. Dave says this was really interesting. And he meets with the general manager. And they sit down, they're having a cup of coffee. And he says to the general manager of the Rio Vegas, "I love what you're doing with your social media team." The general manager looks at Dave and says, "We don't have a social media team." Dave goes, "Oh." He says, "Well, I love what you're doing with your Twitter feed." The general manager looks at Dave and says, "We have a Twitter feed?" They both become intrigued and they do a bit of exploration and then uncover that there are these 5 individuals who are working at the Rio Vegas and they've taken it upon themselves to set up a Twitter feed. They're using hashtags and Google alerts, and as soon as they pick up that somebody's having a conversation about a competitor or themselves or in Vegas, they just enter into a conversation. Now, most of us in this room are what they call digital immigrants. We've come across this digital language, we've learned it, we're now proficient in it, but it's a 3rd or a 4th language. For these digital natives here on the screen, it's their first language. As digital immigrants, we're looking at this and thinking, why on earth would you set up a Twitter feed? And if you did think it's a good idea, why don't you put it in through the customer suggestion scheme and the innovation committee and get the budget approval and all those things? These digital natives are thinking, why on earth wouldn't you do it? It's as natural as the air they breathe. And this generation has grown up during a time where every bit of information that's ever been produced is available at any time, anywhere. And that's the revolution. And you have to ask yourself, are you ready for the smart world and smart cities, smart customers, smart transportation for everyone, everywhere? The T and the I stand for technology and institutional change, and they go together because as technology changes, so institutions change, and how we do things. Our industries, our businesses change as a result of technological change. And this has been, when we talk about technology, we're talking about digital and mobile technology. And this has been a phenomenal device in all of our lives, hasn't it? Did anybody leave their mobile phone at home today? Not a single one. I would imagine if you did, you turned around, went back for it, even if it meant getting here late. Can I just borrow your smartphone? Do you mind if I just borrow it? He's looking a bit nervous, a bit worried that I might take it, or he's probably feeling naked now because he doesn't have it. This thing here it's never out of arm's reach, is it? You know, we're closer to this device than we are to our children, to our partners. I know I'm going to get home tonight, and I'm going to climb into bed with my lovely wife. I'm going to kiss her goodnight, and then I'm going to turn over, and I'm going to take a little cheeky look at what's happening on Facebook, perhaps any emails that have come in, and then I'm going to kiss it goodnight and put it to sleep, and it will wake me up in the morning. It will be the first thing that I will see. Thank you. He's looking much more comfortable now. So with the technology we're seeing coming over the horizon, from cloud technology, robotics, AI, 3D printers, all of this technology that Mr. Burton talked about, it's here. The future is happening all around us. And I think if we really want to get behind the hype of what is happening, the real revolution can be summed up in this sentence. We now have the ability to gather massive amounts of data, process that information in real time, and use the output to immediate and valuable effect. I'll give you an example here. I'm going to use autonomous driving cars because you get this. So this is Google's self-driving car, and it has thousands of sensors and cameras, and as it drives along, it's creating this 3D map of the world. It is gathering massive amounts of information. It is processing that information in real time. Just 10 years ago, computer scientists and computer engineers said we would never have self-driving cars. We wouldn't have the computing power to process all of this information and get you safely to your destination. And yet today, Google and other car manufacturers have driven millions of miles. Now, I grew up in the 80s, and Kit Car and Knight Rider. I never imagined in my wildest dreams that this would become a reality, and yet today it is. And because of this, our ability to gather all of this information, process it in real time, use the output to immediate and valuable effect, we are making the impossible possible. And you have to look at your business, you have to look at the challenges and say, what are the things that we thought were impossible? Because today, with the breakthrough technology and radical ideas and radical dreams, we can achieve the impossible. AI, automation, again, amazing developments. This is Boston Dynamics' Big Dog. This is not a remotely controlled machine. This is a robot that makes intelligent decisions. I don't know what it is. They call their machine, their robot, Big Dog, and the first thing they do is go and kick it. I don't know why. But it's an immensely impressive machine. And this is their latest robot called Atlas. And just have a look at the agility and precision of this robot. We now have robots that can do very delicate, intricate stitches, sutures on a grape. Robots that can help us walk, clean our houses, give us massages, robotic furniture that will change shape, robots that will work alongside us collaboratively without harming us. Personal favorite, this is robots that build IKEA furniture, robotic lawnmowers, and of course, robot trucks. But I think these are the robots that are really going to change our world. They're called software bots or software robots. And we know of them today as Siri or Alexa. And we're going to invite these robots into our lives. And they're going to be on our iPads, our phones. We'll probably even start implanting them into our bodies. And we're going to ask them questions, important questions like, what should I be eating today? Or who should I marry? Because when you're living to the age of 125, that's a question you want to get right. You might want to ask yourselves, which transport system should I use? How sustainable is that? What's the congestion on this route? Virginia Romty, the CEO of IBM, says, in the future, every decision that humankind makes is going to be informed by some form of artificial intelligence. And we have to ask ourselves, how are we going to work alongside these machines? How will we work together in this new world? And these are important questions because if we don't get them right, businesses of the future may be run something like this.
Hi, I just want to make a deposit.
You have your account number?
Right here.
Lean forward, please.
What is this?
It's our new customer tracking system. It has your account number and barcode. It speeds you right through the line.
Now what?
That line over there.
Feel like banks are getting a bit impersonal?
What's a holdup?
I hate it when these things don't scan.
Try.
The final tide is the E, the environment and ethics. And the media darling, of course, is global warming. The debate is not, is the world getting warmer? The debate is, what is causing it? But if you do know of anyone who believes that global warming is fake news, please show them this photograph. I think it's the best evidence I've found that global warming actually exists. We're seeing massive advances in solar and wind power energy, but the thing that really excites me is an experiment, a scientific experiment that's happening in the south of France called ITER, being run by an organization called ITER. And at ITER, what they are doing is they are trying to harness the power of nuclear fusion. They are taking two elements, deuterium and tritium, and they fuse them together. We know about nuclear fission, that's the splitting of the atom. Nuclear fusion is fusing atoms together, and it's immensely powerful. It's the power that powers our sun. And the amazing thing about deuterium is that it is found in our oceans. Plentifully, it's believed to be a remnant of the Big Bang. And there's so much deuterium in our ocean that if you were to take 1 cubic kilometer of seawater, you would find enough deuterium there to create the energy equivalent to that of all our fossil fuel reserves. And at ITER, what they are trying to do is harness this energy. And they are creating the biggest machine that humans have ever built. It's going to have 10,000 tons of magnets. It's going to have a magnetic force field of 200,000 times stronger than anything on Earth. And at the center, we will see temperatures exceeding 200 million degrees. Because what they are doing is they are building a miniature star on Earth. And it is promising cheap, clean energy for millions of years. It's pollution-free, it's carbon-free. And if we are able to harness this power of fusion, we will see a change in course of civilization. We also need to think about the ethics of business and what the role of business is in society. Because we're seeing through the rise of populism around the world and through austerity and through the Great Recession, that people are beginning to question what is the role of business in society. It's not just about making a profit. And Virginia Romney says, how will we engage with an emerging culture of people determined to change the practice of business in society? Fortune magazine, just 4 years ago, announced the Change the World list. 50 mega corporations that are changing the world, that are using the power, the force of business to make the world a better place. This month, you can go onto the Fortune magazine, and they've just launched their 4th list. And we can see companies that are hard-nosed, profit-driven organizations. They're looking at the world, and they're saying, how can we take what we do and make the world a better place? So there you have it, 5 forces, 5 tides of change. I know there are other disruptive forces. These aren't the only 5 disruptive forces out there. But we think these are the most important ones. And if you are keeping your eye on them, if you are analyzing and having conversations and asking questions about these disruptive forces, you will identify the challenges and you will be able to create the future. Spend some time reflecting around this question. What are the conversations? What are the dreams? What are the questions you should be having about the future, but aren't? Let me summarize this presentation in the next 2 slides. Does anybody know where point A on the map is? I'm looking for the name of the town. We're in America, the USA. We're just north of Illinois, south of Chicago. We're in the Champaign district. I'm looking for the name of this town. Does anybody know? Okay, my researchers have uncovered, we think this is the only town in the world called Normal. Now bear with me, I know this is a long way to go for a punchline, but imagine that you travel to Normal and you're visiting your customers there and suppliers and you're looking at the rail and transport network, and as you leave Normal, as you drive out of the city or town of Normal, you come across signs like these, leaving Normal. And that's where we are today. We are leaving Normal. And I just want to remind you, I know we spoke a little about it, the young millennials and digital natives who will live to 125 and change the world. I just want to remind you that you, digital immigrants, you old dogs, you can learn new tricks.
Hey, nice dog.
Yeah, this is Piper. You're a bred border collie. Watch this. Piper, fetch. Good boy, Piper. You're such a smart dog. So, what can your dog do?
Fergus, Bud Light.
Bad dog. If you'd like a copy of this presentation, please pull out your mobile phone, take a photo of the screen. You can download the presentation there. If you'd like to contact me and ask me any questions about what we're seeing in the future and the tides of change, please feel very welcome to contact me. But thank you very much for your time and your attention, and I wish you all the best, and I hope you have a really fantastic conference today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. van Leeuven. 1 minute, please. We have a small gift for you. Thank you for inspirational talk. And we in Latvia have a place which is called Future Nākotne.
Yeah.
So if you are going away from normal, we can come back here to Latvia, visit the future. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. An applause.